Have you ever thought about how boxing works as a form of self defense? Or have you ever considered what the history of the sweet science can teach us about training today? With the rise in popularity of bare knuckle boxing, more and more people are drawn to the history of this art and its place in the martial arts world today. Did you know that before it was a sport that we know, pugilism, as it was called, was a form of self defense and an alternative to dueling with swords? This video will explore some fascinating background information on the history of boxing. Then we will look at a unique and comprehensive method for training old school boxing. We will then conclude this video with drills and practical self-defense methods that were used on the streets in the 17 and 1800s against single and multiple attackers.
Hi, I'm Chris Dyer, and I wanted to do a quick introduction about who I am and how this video came about. First off, I am the owner and head instructor at Reborn Martial Arts in Springfield, Virginia. I have a background in Kempo Karate, Isshin-ryu Karate, Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, Wudong Kung Fu, and I also have coached and competed in Western martial arts, including ringen, traditional German wrestling, and bare knuckle boxing. I've had the opportunity to work with world-renowned martial artists and have been teaching for close to 20 years at this point. My interest in historic boxing actually came about many years ago when I was teaching at historic European martial arts seminars on bare knuckle boxing of the Victorian age known as Bartitsu. And my interest kind of grew from there. And over the years, I've just developed more and more interest in this art. And after putting a lot of different ideas together, I've kind of come up with this course that you can follow along with that really covers kind of a broad range of history from early to mid 1700s up through late Victorian periods, which includes a number of different styles of bare knuckle boxing as well as savate methods and grappling arts as well, all included in a self-defense system that people used back in the olden times into what we call the old school boxing method of self-defense. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.
It's impossible to say when boxing first became a sport. Martial combat is recorded in the very first tales that humans told. But we know that it was a major part of the Western tradition going back to the ancient world. Homer describes a boxing match at the funeral games for Patroclus, and boxing was in the ancient Olympic Games dating to 688. The Roman gladiators boxed, and we know that boxing and wrestling exhibitions were held throughout the history of ancient, medieval, and Renaissance Europe. Sadly, we don't have any good historical materials on how boxing was trained or practiced. That is, until the early modern era, when during the Age of Reason, people began to apply scientific understanding and reasoning to everything, including boxing. This was a period of great change in the world, and many of the historical and cultural ideas of the time can be seen playing out in early manuals of the day. James Figg, Jack Broughton, Daniel Mendoza, and John Jackson were all early pioneers of the art. Later, in the 18 and early 1900s, a growing concern over street violence and gangs due to overpopulated cities and rising poverty led people to have an increasing interest in self-defense. People like Colonel Thomas Hoyer Monstry and Edward William Barton Wright began teaching their methods of boxing to the average person as a means of defending themselves. Now discover for yourself the complete method of old school boxing for self-defense.
All right, so first let's talk about targets. Targets are going to be familiar to you if you study any sort of combat sport. The very first one that we're going to talk about is what they called back in the day the mark. So this is solar plexus, just below the solar plexus into the diaphragm, knock the wind out of the person. So that's the first one. The next one is what they called the button. So this is right down to the chin. You pop this guy, knocking the jaw back. Following that are anything near the eyes, so striking to the eyes to get them to water up. Following that is the cheek. Obviously, striking to the cheek will help manipulate a person's structure if you can turn it to the side. Following that is ears. So this is actually focusing on hitting, and we're going to look at these later, but doing strikes to strike into the actual ear to create pressure and disorient a person there. Following that is the neck, on the side of the neck, just below the jawline. And then following that is the liver. So coming right in here to the right-hand side, striking in an upwards direction. We have other targets that we can focus on for self-defense as well. You get strikes the groin and whatnot, but primarily we're not going to cover those today, but they are options for you. Strikes to the legs we will look at though. All right, next let's look at guards. We got two main guards that we're going to be working from. When we do these, we can work either the left or right side, so we're going to look at both real quick. So first thing we're going to do is I'm going to get Larry here into a long guard. So long guard, we're going to be with our back leg is bent, our lead leg is out front, our hands are up here at center line. We take the fist and we turn it so that the knuckles are facing your opponent. One hand is at chin height, and the other hand is at solar plexus height. This is the iconic bare knuckle boxing stance that you see people use in media and whatnot. So this is covering his jawline, it's covering his mark, remember this, it's covering his mark here, his button here. He's got his weight in his back leg, and what this is able for him to do is take a big step forward with that lead leg and throw that lead left. And we're going to be looking at these in just a little bit. But this is the long guard. The next one that we're going to be doing is the closed guard, or we're going to turn his hips a little bit more, take that back leg, step it around a little bit more, square up a little bit more. We're actually going to take the upright posture and lean it forward. And then we're going to take the hands and we're going to adjust them so that they're further out. So this is the closed guard where he's closing off most of his body, squaring up a little bit more though, not extending the arms as much. So this hand's going to pull back a little bit, but this same idea. This hand is guarding at his chin and this one is guarding right here down a little bit lower at his solar plexus. Both of these stances have advantages and disadvantages. If Larry takes that long guard again, he's got short distance, so if he turns to face me, he's got a short distance to cover from this hand towards my targets, right? So if his guard is pulled back more, his hand has to travel more distance. If his hand is out here already, all he needs to do is just strike this out or take a small step forward with his left and he can make contact to his target. So we're here, he steps forward and just does a quick jab. It's very, very small distance. It is a little bit more difficult because he's got this long stance to move laterally, but it has its huge advantage is that distance management, being able to move forward quickly and then move backwards quickly into that guard. It also forces me, so if his guard is right here closing off his center line, I can't do strikes down this center line. His guard is completely covered, so I'm forced to do circular, easier to defend movements around that guard. I have to work around it. If he turns to that closed guard, I can more or less get a lot closer, so my strikes don't have to travel as far on my end, but I have a lot to work around. I have to work through the guard here. His face is completely covered. He can move equally as well forward, backward, laterally, so he's got way more mobility in this stance, but I am allowed to get a little bit closer, and I have more options to strike down the center line. All right? So those are the two biggies that we'll look at, and again, you work both sides, so you work left and right guard. Okay, let's look at footwork. First thing we're going to do is just a simple step in. So I'm going to take my guard, and I take the lead leg. I'm going to take the long guard for this, but this footwork is the same if you do long guard or the closed guard. So I'm going to take my lead guard, or long guard, and take my lead leg, and I simply close this distance and then throw this strike. So I'm here, I close in, and we're here. I close in, and we're here. Nice and simple. This shouldn't look too unfamiliar to anybody out there. The next is actually going to be a lunge, and this is going to be take the lead step in with a jab and elongate it and prolong it. So we're here, instead of just stepping in and snapping this in and out, coming in and out, we're going to do something really unique. And this comes from when boxing was heavily influenced by fencing. The gentlemen of the age, they learned how to box and fence, and this is a kind of a holdover and a really useful technique, and we'll look at this later, that is uncommon to see today. So we're on this guard, and I'm actually going to, if I have a good opening and I have a good target, I'm going to step in deep and I'm going to drive this punch out here. And I'm not going to snap it back because what I want to do is force my opponent off balance, knock him back. So I'm here and I drive into this position and then I recover. I drive through and then I recover. Boom. I'll do a couple of these. And we're straight out. So I'm covering my face as I do this, and I'm almost stepping behind this attack, and then I'm out of there. All right, so that's the lunge. The next one that we're going to do is the gather step. So I'm in guard, and I have two opportunities to attack here. If they're close enough, I can throw a strike as my back foot comes in. This is the gather step. And then I can throw another attack as I'm stepping forward. So as I'm in this position, I can strike 1, 2, come back out of it, practice 1, 2, back out of it. These are going to be a little bit faster. And then we're back out of it one more time. And we're back out of it, like so. The next one is the passing step. So a passing step is a full-on stepping past his foot to close the distance. We'll come at a slight little angle here. Here we go. So he's really far away. I'm going to step forward and then step out when I do this one. Again, when we put other strikes into play here, this will make a little bit more sense, but I close this distance and then I throw that strike. And then you compare this with some of the other stuff that we've done. So I can close this distance and then really drive through to make a really powerful strike that's going to blow your opponent back. So I pass the lead foot and then strike. And then finally we have lead and follow. So this is if we're moving laterally to left and right. It's called lead and follow because the side that is the direction I'm going to go is going to be the lead. So if I want to go to the right, I take a step to the right, and then my back leg follows. If I need to go to the left, this leg steps, and then I follow. So the direction I'm going to go, that leg leads. So if my target is here, and maybe it moves off to this direction, I want to follow it, or I go back this direction, I follow it with the back leg, and then come around so I'm staying square with my opponent. Okay, so let's talk about our basic strikes. We're going to start with our long guard again. And first thing we need to cover is hand alignment. So when we throw strikes, what we're going to focus on is the broad surface of the fist is going to be facing my opponent. And we want to keep this line of attack as fast and short as possible so it drives straight out. We often describe this as giving someone an ice cream cone. You're just taking the fist and holding it straight out. This does a couple things. One, it puts the fist in a strong, solid alignment. It keeps my elbow down, which I can be used, and we'll look at these later with our guards, of protecting our ribs, protecting our solar plexus, and we're going to use it as a defensive tool later on too. So keeping this arm straight like this as much as possible is key. So next thing we need to focus on is whenever we throw a strike, if I come high with the strike, my other hand needs to be guarding my mark. If I go low with the strike, the other hand is going to come up to guard at the face. As we're alternating which hand is striking, one hand is coming back to guard, one hand is out. All right, so starting out, jab. This is pretty much universal in any boxing style. We take this guard as fast as possible. This hand whips out there, and then it's back here. If I'm in my long guard, this is really quick. It's a short, straight line path to the target. If I'm in my closed guard, it's a little bit further away, but it's the same idea. I strike it out there, whip, and then come in right back with it. The next one is the long jab, which we've already looked at with our lunging step. So this is where I take that jab, that same idea, and I extend it out, and I'm actually rotating my shoulders into this open stance. I'm actually using more of my back to drive into this. It's an extremely powerful long-range jab. It's really unique to this system. So we're here. I'm using my back, this rear shoulder pulls, and as I do that, I'm extending into this. It's almost like drawing a bow as you do this strike, the long jab. The next one is the cross, again, pretty common. I rotate my hips, I drop my foot, and I'm coming in with this strike from the rear like so. I'm here, and I strike this fist out. Take my guard, rotate. Now, if you notice this hand is dropping down, this fist has come up to about jaw line, so this other hand is now guarding at my midsection. I come back to this guard. The next one is the short cross. The reason we call it a short cross is I'm not going to rotate to get full extension. I'm a little bit closer, and I'm going to drop into this back weight, and I drop through here. So I'm not reaching so much, but I'm dropping into this cross. The next one is the uppercut. So you can do this with either hand, keeping it nice and tight, coming in, and then dropping the body weight like so, striking upwards. And then finally, another unique one for empty hand, no glove boxing is the inverted hook. So if I throw a hook and I have a boxing glove on, the entire boxing glove kind of absorbs that impact. What we want to focus on is this little pinky here. Is if I do a hook and I angle this wrong, that little pinky really runs the risk. Everybody knows this as the boxing break or the boxing fracture, right where my scars are. We don't want to have that pinky break. We want to take that pinky and put it up to the ceiling. Now the big knuckles here, the first two knuckles, are the ones going to make impact. So as I do this, I'm going to slow it down so you guys can see it. I turn my body, I wheel this arm around, it's almost like a whip, and then these two knuckles come crashing down, this inverted hook punch through here. I'll do the other side. So it comes around, I cover through this direction, and now I'm striking in. It's almost like a plunging downward inverted motion. So we're here, like so. So those are the main basic strikes. We'll have some more advanced ones that we'll look at in a little bit, but let's get started with some of these drills. Okay, let's look at milling. This is probably the most iconic thing from old school boxing, and it's also the one that gets parodied a lot in media. So it does, at first glance, seem a little awkward because we have this connotation of it being sort of silly, almost comedic, but in a little bit we'll look at how it actually can be used in play. Let's look at how this works. So milling is short for windmilling, you're windmilling the arms. So again, we'll take our long guard. And from here, I'm taking my hands and I'm going to circle. So I'm going to go first outward. So my hand is kind of going away from my body, away from my body. So what it looks like, I have my hand protecting my chin line and my other hand protecting at my solar plexus. And I'm going to rotate my hand. So I'm rotating my guard like so. So it's coming back to this position. I'm guarding at my solar plexus, and this one's guarding at the chin, and I'm going to rotate out. Now, if you notice, I'm rotating not just my arms, my hips and shoulders are moving in this as well. This is really important for when we start incorporating strikes. So I'm circling away from my body, again, away from my body, away from my body, away from my body. The next way that we do this is circling inward. So I'm coming in towards my body, in towards my body, in towards my body, in almost an upwards direction. This is going to be really relevant in just a little bit. And then we can start changing these. So the entire point of milling is that if I'm in a guard, if I'm in a, just go take my, my peekaboo, if I'm in this guard and I'm not moving it at all, my opponent has opportunity to spot where I'm open, where I'm weak, where I'm vulnerable, and take advantage of that. What we're doing with milling is making it really difficult for them to perceive what your guard is, and it also is an opportunity to hide strikes. So how this works, as I'm moving away from my body, away from my body, away from my body. I'm moving inward. I'm alternating inward, outward, moving them around. I can start incorporating this with footwork, doing jabs, crosses, long guard, and I'm alternating like so. So I'm not just sticking with one pattern. We don't want to be predictable with this. I want to change it until I find my position. I can start moving my footwork around. I can throw a jab, upper, cross, long. Notice the split timing. We can really mess up a person. They won't be able to predict what our arms are doing. Just simply make these changes and then attack again back with it. Let's do some drills and see what this looks like. All right, so starting out, I'm going to start milling my arms, and my starting out, they're just going to give me a mitt to strike. So I'm going to mill, maybe pick one. I'm going to go outward. When I am ready, I extend my arm out, I do the strike, I check, as my other hand back at my solar plexus, check it is. We're here, he throws it out there, I immediately do a strike, I continue my milling. I can start working, changing it up, so now I'm going to come inwards, he throws a mitt out, boom. And then you can start making a little bit more unpredictable. So you're here. If you notice, I'm doing jabs, I'm doing uppers, striking straight out, doing cross, and it's going to be very, very difficult for them to perceive what we're doing. Sometimes you can do multiples. Like so. All right, let's start looking at some of these other drills and incorporating other stuff to this. Okay, let's look at our parries and defenses next. We're going to start out with outward movements or outward blocks. So what we're going to do is just go ahead and take, let's have you each take a guard. So Larry, why don't you take the long guard, and Mike, you're going to take our close guard. And what we're going to do is outward defense. So what I'm going to do is take my right arm in this case, I'm going to bring it up here, create some distance between my fist and my head. So one of the big mistakes that people will make is if Mike turns sideways and I throw this block, if he brings his head back, our hand back here like this, and we're actually like cupping at the head, cupping at the ear, this works really, really well if you have a nice big mitt boxing glove. I can hit this thing, my glove absorbs into his glove, and it covers really, really well. He absorbs that impact. The problem with that is, if I hit him really, really hard like this, he's going to hit himself in the head with his own knuckles. I've seen this time and time again with people practicing without gloves on. So what we actually want to do is create a space. We're looking for strong skeletal structure alignment out here to defend. If I really dig into this, Mike is not allowing me to go past. He's completely barred that angle of attack. So we're going to take this arm and bring it up. So we're here. We'll start with our left in this case. So we take our guard, move it around a little bit. We're practicing our milling, and then we're going to go and defend to the left. So we take this arm, we bring it up here by our head. Then we mill around a little bit, so we can go forward, we can go backward, and we'll go to the right, we cover. As we do these covering, or here, I want to make sure that I'm barring at my midsection, so my other hand is dropping down to guard my solar plexus, and then my hands come back to this guard. So I'm blocking to the right, cover, and block to the left, cover. So we have outward blocks. The next one, we take our guard. If the opponent moves to the side and they attack from this empty space, so they're attacking towards like eye, brow ridge, temple, this sort of thing, we take our guard, our long guard as it's milling, and I block it across this direction. Now the problem with this is I'm now open on this side, so I want the other hand to come up as I rotate back to this guard. So I'm going to practice this, and if you work milling, this works really well. I block across, this hand's taking its space as my arms return back to this guard position. Then we can work our milling again. So we're here, we're milling. I'm going to block to the right. My hand comes up to guard, and then I'm back in this position. I'm back to my milling, and then we can go to the left. I block to the left, my hand comes back to replace it at my face, and then we're back here. So we're milling, we're milling, we're milling. We'll block to our right. We come across, our hands come right back up. It should be very, very fluid. We block, we move. We block, we move, and we're back into this position. Now the low parry, so our hands are moving around, we're moving around. A strike comes low. All we're going to work on doing, we can do this with a little side step too. We'll get to this in a second. But we're just taking the hand and we're bring it down and bring it down. Oftentimes in the old art that you see from this age, you'll see a lot of grabs with the wrists where you block it and then pull onto a grab, block it, pull onto a grab. Right now all we're going to focus on is just take the hands because they're open, knock it down, turn to the side as we do this. The next one, we'll take our stance and we're going to do what's called the lean back. So we're on guard, wherever we are, we're moving around. A strike comes in and we just simply rock into the back leg. We want to keep the hands up as we do this, and then we return. We're here. One of the drills that you guys can practice is as you lean back, you return with a straight blow. So we're here, we lean back, and then return with a straight blow. We're moving, we lean back, return with a straight blow. The next one is the throw or jump. So as we move around, we might be striking, we're moving forward, and then an attack comes in where we've overcommitted ourselves. An attack is moving faster than we can deal with. We explode back, so we just jump back out of it. We're here, we're moving, maybe we're moving forward, and then we leap back, jump back. Moving again, we're moving forward, and then we jump back. And then the last one is slipping. So we're going to take remember our lead and follow footwork. As we're moving around, we take our right leg in this case, and we're going to just take a small step this direction. The head moves offline, and then we recover back to center, or we can slip to the left. So we take our left leg, we sidestep, and then we return back to center. So we're moving or milling our arms around. Attack comes in, we move, and then we're back in center. We move, and then we're back in center. So I'm going to have these guys practice this. We're going to start out with outward blocks. So we're going to have attacker over here. You're going to be milling your arms, so just milling around. And the attacker is going to try and work their way around this guard. So in this case, we're actually going to take assume Mike here is a non-trained, just average Joe on the street, throws an attack, right? So Larry is going to be working this as a form of defense. His milling hands is going to be ideally confusing or creating more difficult guards or targets for Mike to work around. So Mike's going to throw a wide strike to try and get past this guard. Larry's then going to do his outward cover. I'm not going to tell them which arm. I'll just let Larry go ahead and defend it as he sees it. He brings it up and guards. Brings it up and guards. So Mike can't work through Larry's milling arms, and so he's forced to work around it, and Larry brings that guard up and then immediately comes back to this guard position. All right, I'm going to have you separate. Same deal. So Mike, you're going to be milling your arms around. Larry's going to throw strikes down your center line. So this is actually going to be harder for the person attacking because our arms are already here. They're milling. They're creating these this strong defense on our center line the entire time. But if you do see an opening, say my hand is coming up, I'm throwing a strike, and there's an opening down here, that's where the attack is going to come in. And Mike's job is to bar this with his mid block and then return back to his milling. So let's take a look at this. Your partner is milling their arms. The strike comes down the center line when you see an opening, down the center line when you see an opening. And Mike immediately wants to return back to his milling. Try and not fall into a pattern. Yep, you want to change it outward or inward. Excellent. And we'll break there. The next one, the low. So if a person does strike lower or below the belt or whatever it happens to be, what we don't want to do is obviously bend forward with our face. This is going to be really, really bad. If Mike throws low or feints low or whatever, I bend forward to duck this, I can get attacked over top. So what we're going to focus on is we're going to sit into our back leg, or hollow the body a little bit and allow the hand to come down. The most important part though is the other hand needs to be up here at our face. If this is a feint, so if he feints this, I come down here, I don't want to drop both hands down and be wide open. I want the other hand to remain up. As you're practicing your milling, this is training us for this, this instinct of one hand is doing one thing, one hand is doing the other thing, and you'll find that this is actually really, really easy to do. Even if it is a feint, you can cover it, and you're already primed for bringing your hands back up on guard and moving it. So let's do this. Larry's going to be milling his arms around. Mike will either feint or attack low, and Larry's just going to slap it down out the way and immediately return back to this position, back to his milling. All right, the next one, the lean back. So we're gonna be in our milling position. Mike is going to do a long strike, so he's going to step forward and do an attack to the face. This can be, a person that either knows how to do this boxing method, or they're just committed to throwing a big strike right down your face. And all you're going to be doing, we're in this position. Because we're fluid in our arms, we're also fluid in our footwork, we're simply lean back out of the way, and then we can give a return. So Larry's going to come back with another strike of his own. So he's going to be a little bit more forward weighted in this case, so he's leaning into this a little bit. Maybe he's got his closed guard. Mike throws the position, and Larry's head is going to roll back. He's not taking his whole body back, he's just leaning his head and core back out of the way, and then he can return with a strike of his own. So we lean, and then he can come back with a strike of his own. Lean, and then come back. Good. Now we're going to do this the other direction. Mike is going to be moving in, and Larry's going to throw a big strike. Mike wants to get out of there, so he's actually going to move back out of space. So we're here. Larry's going to be waiting for him. He's ready to go. Mike is advancing forward. Larry does a big motion, and Mike gets back out of the way. We can actually utilize this. Keep going again. As he perceives this. He perceives it enough that he has the time to jump back out of the way. He can absolutely take advantage of this. When we get to our other strikes, we can work on coming around with our circular motion, like our hook. So if I'm going to go ahead and take a spot, as this strike comes in, I can utilize this for our inverted punch, or I can defend like so. All right. That's it for this part. We're going to look at counter strikes in just a moment. Okay, as we're kind of building our old school boxing method, we're going to look at some of the advanced strikes next. So the first thing that we're going to work on is the chopper. This is a strike using the back part of the hand. We use this a lot when we do returns off after blocking a strike. So how this works, I'm going to take my arm, I'm in this position, we're going to drop it down a little bit because again we use this a lot after doing a block, so I'm covering this direction, and then it's going to wind around. Think about elbow, or sorry, shoulder, elbow, and then wrist. So I'm going to move to this position and then we're striking like so. The ideal targets for this is going to be bridge of the nose, so something at a slight angle like this, bridge of the nose, or the eyes. We can do obviously either side when we do this. Shoulder, elbow, and then much like a whip, and we're dropping our body weight into this. We're here, we're dropping into this strike. That's the chopper. The next one is hammer fist. So this one's pretty obvious. Wherever my hand is, I'm using the meaty bit of the hand, and we are plunging down with this. We can do downward, we can do a crosswise, we can do inward, it doesn't really matter. So crosswise would look like so. We're striking in this direction. I can go downward, I can go across this direction, just striking with that hammer fist part of the hand. The next one is the musette or feed bag strike. So this is actually really common in sort of Eastern martial arts, kung fu, karate, this sort of thing. Palm strikes, palm heel strikes. The hand curves in, fingertips are slight bent, the thumb ideally is attached, and you can either do this with the hand just like so, or you can take the fingertips and curl them in, which is another way to kind of protect them from getting pulled back if we're doing this as a body blow, or we're worried about them defending or knocking our fingers around. So we're going to take the musette, the feed bag, and we're just going to drive this straight forward. It's a lot like doing a palm jab, only we're striking with the palm surface of the hand. So we're here, same body mechanics. I can either do it as a jab, I can do it as a cross, I can do it as a long jab, I can even do it as a hook. So if you turn sideways, I can do it this direction and around this direction. The next is la baffe, or the slap. So definitely don't ever underestimate the value of a slap, especially to correct target zones. So remember what we talked about at the beginning of this video, ears and neck. These are incredibly sensitive spots. So if I do this one and I create a small pocket here in my palm as I come in and I strike right here to the ear, this is going to disrupt my opponent's equilibrium, their ability to balance and stay upright, and can cause dizziness. It can cause all kinds of havoc to their ability to continue attacking if you strike here. And same thing with the neck. If I come slapping in to the neck, this can disrupt the blood supply to the brain, causing a person to get disoriented or even pass out when you do these. So la baffe, either inward, or we have backwards like so, striking like so. It also can disrupt a person's balance or equilibrium. So if I strike this direction, it can be setting up for another different follow-up strike. So those are kind of the advanced strikes. Let's start putting some more of this into play and seeing how this works as a complete system. Okay, so let's get into this partner drill of blocking and giving some sort of return. So as a form of self-defense, if this person, I know they're ready to attack me, I immediately want to come to one of my guards. I'll go ahead and take my closed guard. So I'm going to start moving my hands around. So I'm creating a posture that he's going to have to work around. I'm actively focusing on closing off my center line. So I'm forcing him to strike around this. If he wants to do a strike, a hand strike to me, he's going to have to work around this center guard. So he's going to have to do a circular strike. So with that in mind, I'm going to keep my guard here. I'm going to block this, and I immediately, this is one of the biggest part. There's two things that we need to focus on here. First, I immediately want to pull back to guard after this hand is retracting. And the second part is, don't open yourself up. This is a huge mistake that I see students make all the time, is that as this hand is going out to defend, this other hand drops back a lot of times. This is a really, really huge danger zone. We want to make sure that we keep this hand up here. It's going to be really important in just a moment. So I'm taking my guard. Larry, he throws his strikes. I'm going to defend it. I'm going to defend it here. He can go either side. It doesn't matter. We're here. I'm going to defend like so. All right, so that's the first part. The next one is, if this person sees this defense coming up, they might be creating an opening intentionally. So if I throw this here, he might be trying to strike low, in which case either one of these arms, as I'm coming in, I'm going to try and block that, and then I'm going to block here. 1, 2. I'm going to defend like so. 1, 2. Now I want to keep that elbow down. We actually want to, ideally, if I can, have their hand hit somewhere around my elbow, this nice hard bony bit, versus their little fingers. If I can jam those, that's bonus points is what we call that. We're here, block it, and defend like so. And notice my guard is nice and tight right here, still creating this defense like so. Always, always, always block it. Unless you see a very clear, this is a feint type of action, you're going to want to cover these because you simply don't know. And in the defensive posture, you don't want to guess wrong and get clipped with it. The next one is feints. So if I'm in this position, again, if Larry throws a feint, I still want to cover it. I'm ready to go. And then I can return back to my guard. And we're like so. All right, so every time they throw any sort of thing, we want to be ready to defend that. We don't want to get into the mindset of, oh, I'll just eat this once or twice. No, you want to defend because you don't know which one's going to be a big power strike. All right, the next one is the block and return. So I can do this with either hand, and what we're going to focus on is best available target. So we're going to go slow with this. Your partner will throw a strike. You're going to do one of your blocks that we've worked on. Now, visualize where they are, and then I'm going to give a return, and we're right back here, back to this position. We're here, we defend, and I'm going to give my return. We're here, I defend, and I can change my return up with hammer strike, and we're back here. Then we can ask our partner to start speeding it up. So as we're drilling this, we're here, defend, and I go, defend, and I go, defend, and I go, defend, and go. Chopper, hammer, defend, cross, defend, chopper again, defend, slap to the ear, chopper to the eye, any of these. Oh, we're out of range for this, so I did the jump back. Also, we can do this jump back and then come back in with these follow-up strikes. So we're here, we're moving, whatever makes the most sense. Boom, follow up like so. So we'll do a couple reps of this, have a partner just give an attack, do the block, do a defense, and then come back with a follow-up strike. Next, we're going to look at the strikes that you can do off of the block. So if he does this hook punch, a really beautiful setup, I don't have to move this guard at all, and I can give a straight return right from where I am. There's our hammer strike. It's one of the prescribed ways of doing this. If he does a straight blow down my center line, I parry this, and then I give a straight blow of my own, stepping in and striking just like so. And this one works really well with that long jab. So we're here, he does the center line. I continue to blow through with this along that center line, striking with that long jab. And the next, if he goes a high strike, so maybe my guard is down here, maybe they're a lot taller, I move my head out the way, I bring my guard up, and I'm going to do that inverted hook punch that we talked about. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to corkscrew this over, and then we strike in here. This is one of the really unique strikes to this method, to this art, and it works incredibly well. So we're here, as his strike comes in, I go like so, like that. If he does it again, we're here. I can also strike up and cross this direction with it. So we're here, depends on the situation, we're striking in this direction. Notice my body is leaning slightly out of the way because I do have to worry about this arcing down, but done correctly, if you notice my arm is in this position, my elbow down, I get hit, all I need to do, small change into that posture, and we've deflected that fist. Now I want to bring this up, and we can do our Labov from here, wherever, whatever the situation gives you. So we're here, defend, striking in, and then I can follow up this direction. The last one is if they strike a little bit lower, I do a parry down, so I'm on guard. I'm here, parry down, Labov from here. We're in this position, parry down, and the hand carries right over in like a whip, circular motion. We're here, and we're right in this position. All right, so that's the block and follow-up section. Now let's start increasing the type of drill, add more to this. All right, so a really unique element to old school boxing is the fact that we can use kicks in order to defend ourselves. So I'm going to take my long guard. Mike is going to just come at me like he's an aggressive attacker, and I'm using my positioning. What I want to focus on for this first kick is to use the bottom part of my foot, and I'm going to strike towards his shin. From knee to ankle is the target zone, and I'm actually focusing on deflecting, pushing his leg back, stopping stopping his forward momentum. So as he's moving in, he goes to make an attack, and I take the foot, I stop his forward movement. If I time this as he's stepping in, this can really deflect his stance before he can even put weight on it and mess up his footwork, which is an opportunity for me to come in with a follow-up strike. So it's looking like so. I stop the motion, and then I have follow-up strikes that I can do from here. I'm here, I stop this motion, and I do my chopper at the same time. Go nice and slow. As it comes in, I stop right here. You can slide down to rake down his shin along the way. As you enter, here's my defense, and then I can come in and do my follow-up strike. Okay, next we're going to look at our low side kick. So think about our lead and follow footwork. That's what we're going to be using. We're going to be escaping to one side or the other. So in this position, as my attacker comes in, I'm going to step to the side. I'm going to bring this leg up. I'm going to strike towards the knee with the side kick. And then you can use this to, again, slide down the person's shin. I'll be kind to Mike and not do this. We're here, and you're here striking down. And then you can do your follow-up strikes from here. We'll just do a couple reps of this so you can see. I'm here. Strike, slide down, and then follow up from there. I can do this on the inside, so he again does this hand. Here, I can be on the inside when doing this. I have to be mindful of this other hand, so I want to keep this guard up, maintain my purring motion, and then we're here. I'm here, one more time. I strike, slide down the leg, cover, and then we can strike towards the ear or wherever he's open from there. The next kick is the push kick, or front push kick. So what we're going to focus on is midsection, and we're thinking about you're in a burning building and you need to kick down a door. This is the kick that we're going for. So I'm going to take my guard. I prefer doing this off of lead leg. It's faster and it's harder for them to defend against. So I'm in my position. If they're charging in, I simply take my leg and I apply pressure and I drive forward with this. You want to get your knee up high. You want to push out with your whole body and then bring your leg back in so that you're not falling forward with this. But then you can control where you place that foot. So it's going to look like so. I stop him, I push, and I actually like doing this off of long guard after that. So I'm here. He moves in, I stop his forward movement, I cover to make sure his hands are not attacking me, and then you can follow up strike from here. So those are the three basic kicks that we work on, and now we're going to start putting it all into play. Okay, let's put some of this together and see what it looks like. We'll have inside and outside views of each technique, and we'll just have these guys throw some basic strikes that you commonly see and how this system looks against that. So we'll start over here. I'm going to take my guard. I'm going to take one of my positions and say he gives me a jab position. If my hands are milling, as they should be, depending on where my hand is in time and space when that punch happens, it will either be an outward or inward block, most likely. So it's going to look like so. I mill it. I end up in this position. From here, I have my uppercut already in way, and then I can do a follow-up strike from here. I can kick, and then I can get back out of it. So again, we have this left jab. So I'm milling through here. This left hand comes in. I parry this. I'm going to do, in this case, the hand was already coming up, so I'm going to do my chopper from here. Here's a hammer strike from there, and then I can kick towards that back leg in that position. Next, we're going to have him do a big wide hook. So I'm going to be doing my milling. I see this hook punch coming in. I'm going to defend this. Here's my inverted punch this direction. We get a chopper from here, and then we can follow through with a long lead, like so. So again, we're on the inside. We're here. That hook punch comes in. I invert my punch over, strike with a chopper from here, and then I can step back in with my long jab through this position. Let's do a back fist next. So a circular strike coming towards the right side of my temple. Again, I'm blocked this position. We get a nice liver punch through here, which is nice. You can always trap the arms down and then strike in with your hammer strikes over the top from this position. Again, I'm in my purring position. That back fist comes in. I block this. I'm going to come back in. In this case, I'm going to do upper strike, hammer strike through this direction, and then we get our kick towards that back leg, and then we're back out of it. All right, so these are just some of the basic strikes that you commonly see in an attack situation. And you'll see that the guard in rotation is just setting up what my next strike is going to be. Next, we're going to look at some of my favorite combinations that I use against an attack and things that you guys can practice on your own. All right, so I want to show you some quick combinations that I like playing with in my own sparring and how they work against a person that doesn't train this method. So if Larry takes whatever guard he wants to do, I'm going to start out with the classic jab cross, only we're going to do it with our long jab. So how this works is I'm doing my milling. When I have my opportunity, I throw this long jab and I'm going to step in on it. If you notice, I'm driving this through. I'm setting his body back as I do this strike. I'm also going to leave this hand here for a very special reason. So we're going to go back to this again. We're milling around. I see my opening. There it is. I take it. As I do this strike, if he starts going back, I'm going to come through with this gather step, and I'm going to leave this hand here as I replace and replace one more time. So I'm doing a jab, cross, jab combo. Nothing too fancy here, only I'm doing it long guard to keep this hand here, to keep him focused on that as I come plowing through with these strikes. I'm gather step off that cross, and then I come back in with a normal jab, and then I'm immediately back on my guard. So one more time, we're here, long jab, cross, and then I'm back to this position, back to my guard. The next one is going to be a drop step with an inverted punch. This works really well if they're here and they do say this cross towards my face. I want to just drop step, I'm doing this inverted punch. Now I'm taking this target, I'm actually going for his mark. I'm knocking the wind out of him for this. Oftentimes, even if I don't hit hard enough to do damage on this one, so I'm here, we'll drop into this position. You also see this, one of my favorite clips from history is Custom Auto doing this against Muhammad Ali. Beautiful scene. If you get a chance, go look it up. But he does this exact same motion against that punch coming in and then coming in with an upper from here. Notice the guard. I always want to make sure that I'm guarding as I'm moving in this position. One more time. Drop step with my inverted punch, cover, and then I'm coming back in with that uppercut. Now, one of the common things that people will say is, if your guard out here, extend it out more than what boxers will typically do, this hand is exposed, can be taken down really, really well. So if we're here, he knocks it down, this happens a lot, that guard is taken down. And it's a very, very valid, fair point. We actually can use this to our advantage with, again, our inverted or hook strike. So as he takes down this guard, I whip this over into this opportunity, and we have my reverse hand, LeBoff from here, and then we can follow up. So again, we'll take this nice and slow. I continue that motion as I strike in through here with that hook. Backhand covering that line of attack, and then we can follow up with whatever we want. One more time. I'm moving around. He does catch it. He timed my milling just right. I follow through. 1, 2, and then we can follow up one more time. The last one that I want to cover is using the chopper, which is usually used as an attack, to do exactly what they just did to me. So where I'm on guard here, I'm milling around, so he's on guard, I'm milling around, he's trying to find my opening. I'm going to use this to take down his guard. From here, I'm going to do my strike this direction, followed by the follow-up this one. So I'm milling around, I use this chopper to come in this direction. If I can extend this a little bit towards his eyes, creating this threat, as I come through with my musette, and then I have my uppercut from here. So these are some combinations that I really like playing with. I think they work really well. And they're ones that after you put all of these lessons into practice, you can start sparring with your partners and trying it out yourself.